Welcome everybody to today's evening session, You Too Can Run, by Shilpa Phadke, one of our very own runners. She's a telecommunications engineer by profession, and I know her only as a runner first and now as an entrepreneur. So she will be taking us through this particular session. The reason we chose her was that she started running about 3 years ago, not been at it for too long. I expected her to be running for at least 8 years, but again, as she says, not too long ago. And she's made rapid progress, according to me. So in 3 years, what she's managed to achieve, I think at the climax, so to say, till this point of her achievements in running, is her third position in SCMM earlier this year. She got the third position in the Mumbai Full Marathon. So that's pretty commendable, and one of the biggest reasons we chose her to conduct today's session. So I will let her sort of give the rest of her introduction and carry on with the session. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to this lecture of Athletic Insights, You Too Can Run. Thank you very much for coming on a Sunday evening, and particularly to listen to someone who has, as she explained, no pedigree in running whatsoever. I have been just running for last 3 years. And here I am to talk about running. To begin with, I couldn't have asked for any better day to talk of something like running and to, promote the message of running. Some of you might be aware that today a new world record in Berlin has been made for marathon, and Wilson Kipsang from Kenya broke the earlier record by 15 seconds, and he completed the marathon in 2 hours, 3 minutes and 23 seconds. Is that right? The previous one was for 38 seconds. The second reason that I find that today's day is really good because it also happens to be the World Heart Day. And I think there's no better exercise for heart than running. And there's no other better time for India to really take up to running, because I also read that we are very soon to become the heart disease capital of the world. So we are home to the most heart disease patients in the world. And that's certainly not a very good cause. And therefore, with that background, I think let's start with my lecture. It's meant for the beginners. And when I say beginners, it is meant for people who have been running, let's say, for last 6 months, 3 months, or like that. For me to just identify, can I have people raise their hands who have been just running for about 6 months or maybe 7 months or so? Okay. For those who have been running for years and really years together, I know many of them and I see a lot of them here. This is a really basics of running, but nevertheless, I hope that for the beginners, I can have 2 penny worth of my sense, which can help you to start and take up running. And for the others, it will at least have some entertainment value. Okay, so welcome to the starting line, and the reason I say this is because the hardest step for anyone who has not been into any physical activity is really to make that beginning and really to take that first step out of the home, because that requires more than a physical challenge, a mental challenge. It's kind of, your fight against that inertia which has already set into all these years, that you need to get up early in the morning or evening, whatever you choose to, and start running. So since you all have come, I have reasons to believe that you all believe in the potential of running. You do believe that running is good for health, and that is how you are here. So most of it you have already done. So now what is probably left is really just to take up this sport of running and bring it to some sort of, not really a conclusion, but a journey. So, okay, this happened with me also. Whenever you decide that, okay, I need to start up a new sport and running is just one of it, the first thing which comes to my mind is, it's a very hard sport. Running is for athletes. I'm not an athlete, but, this is the minor difference between an athlete and a non-athlete. So, Sorry for the break. So everyone is an athlete, and there is really very thin line between an athlete and a non-athlete. And here we are just talking of. So let me just continue. There's not much on the presentation. If there is, I'll show it to you on the screen. Yeah. Okay, so the point I was making is that there is very little difference between an athlete and a non-athlete. Some of us are training, so we just call them athletes, and some of us do not train, so we do not call them an athletes. And here we are just talking of recreational athletes, which we basically all of us are. None of us are into any professional sport, and I assume so. I mean, if somebody's there, with due apology. So none of us are into any sort of professional sports, and so this difference between whether I'm an athlete and whether I can run or not is a very thin line. The day you start taking up training, the day you start running, or any other sport for that matter, you are very eligible to be called as an athlete. One of the other mental blocks that we usually have, and running is quite abused for this, that it is bad for knees, it is not good so much for your heart, and that is why we start to think whether are we really born to run? I mean, have our bodies been made to run, or they have been just made to walk and do the day-to-day course and day-to-day activities? As such, if you see, running has been existing for years together. It's been actually existing for ages. And ever since the first marathon was run, which must have been 736 BC or something, to till this date where we have this tribe you must have heard of in northwest of Mexico, Tarahumara, which are famous for their long distance running, and they run almost more than 100 miles in one stretch. So running actually has never ceased to happen from our lives. And if you see, as children or as youngsters, the running comes naturally to us. We have always been running. It's just that over the period of time, somewhere on the way, we lose the track of running, and we start thinking that, oh no, the running is not for me. I'm not born for running. It is meant for athletes. This is one of the first mental blocks that we have to come across when we decide that, we have to take up running. And after all runners are not really seeking Olympic gold. I mean, none of us are really after that. But what we are minimum seeking from running is probably fitness, some sort of an health, and obviously the joy which you get of running. Losing weight is one of the newly found, I should say, the motives behind running. And yes, of course, it is very good. The other reason to take up running is, it's one of the most inexpensive sports. It doesn't require you to use some sort of hi-fi gadgets. It neither does require you to take any sort of course it does require you a lot of gadgets, and we'll come to that in the later part of my talk. To begin with, you do not require. Once you go ahead, it's your choice to be using gadgets or not to be using. But to begin with, you do not require. You do not need any kind of training. I mean, running is something that you can automatically just, one step next to other and the other one next to other, and you are on your way to running. Questions that we usually come across when we start running. And these are some of the first few, and I'll try to answer these. Many of these do require a lot of deliberation, and there is enormous kind of information available on the net on all of these. And sometimes the information is so much that it can be overwhelming. Sometimes it can get intimidating and sometimes it gets confusing. And that's the best state to describe. It gets confusing because you don't understand any of these. And I would say that when you are starting to run, when you are beginning to run, you can put aside all these worries. There is a very simple question to all of these not so simple questions. There's a very simple answer, and I'll try to give each of these in a very short manner. As you progress forward and in your running, and as you start taking up running more and more and start to do that, there is a natural progression that happens in case of any other sport, or for that matter, natural progression for everything in life, that you get to know the time when it is right to ask for more questions, to seek more information, and to gain more knowledge about any sport or any matter in the context of running. So the first question comes, okay, fine, I have decided to run. How much should I run? What frequency should I have? What is the kind of shoes and clothing that I should use? Whether I should be running on a road or I should be choosing on a trail. What if my leg hurts? What will happen to my ankles and my knees? And all of this come from sometimes, like I said, a lot of information availability, and many a times a lot of misconceptions that have been built around running. So how much to run? I would say that to begin with, if you are, it completely depends on your ground zero. So if you are today somebody who is not into any physical activity, who has not been moving around for any form of exercise, then you should start by walking. Once you are little comfortable with that, try to little jog for 2 days a week or maybe 3 days a week, and slowly add to that frequency. And again, it has to suit your life. I mean, something when you start new, you don't want an additional pressure that comes with being able to meet that target. So if I decide that, okay, I have to run 5 times a week, then it's a pressure on me, because if I do not run 5 times a week, it is demotivating for an activity which I have just started. So choose a target which is it is possible to achieve. Frequency, as I mentioned, it has to suit your lifestyle, because again, we are recreational runners. We have our other lives where we work, where we have to take care of home. So it has to fit into that schedule to begin with. As you get along, I think there is a motivation within you which you find that, you are able to adjust your timings. You are able to adjust the rest of your life to accommodate running into it. So till that happens, until you reach that stage, just take it easy and take it slow. About the shoes and clothing, I think in the running, which today is a $3 billion industry, shoe manufacturers are probably the ones who are making the most of it, and the garment manufacturers. So, there are umpteen number of shoes that are available. There are with sole, without sole, with cushion, no cushion, barefoot running, looking like barefoot running, and there are umpteen number of options which are available. Everybody has a theory, and every company promotes its own theory. Somebody says you must have a cushion, the other one says you don't have a cushion, and there are a lot of technical jargons that you will get to hear as you start coming and being into the running community. And again, it is sometimes very confusing, very overwhelming. What is this pronation, overpronation, and this, that? So my advice to begin with, choose a shoe which fits well in your leg, and that's it you need. Of course, it has to be a running shoe. You cannot go with a trekking shoe and start running on it. But a basic running shoe which fits you well, when you do a test, when you do a run or a walk of say 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, as long as it doesn't hurt, that is the shoe to begin with. So no need to fret about, there are so many shoes in the market that are available. And the other thing is that expensive shoe is not going to make you run faster. After all, it is you who has to run faster. So choose a shoe that fits you well. Road or trail, again a lot of debate that the road has got an impact and therefore it impacts your knees, it impacts your ankles. I would say when you begin, you are hardly going to run at a pace of Wilson Kipling. So take it, even if you run on a road or whether you run on a trail, it is not going to hurt you unless you do something which is drastically different than what you were doing yesterday. So as long as you choose a gradual progression, as long as you choose to take a gradual progression in running, either road or trail is fine. If you are scared and if you feel that it is hard on your legs, choose a trail to begin with. Once you get comfortable to run on the trail because it is a soft track and it is not having so much of a high impact, switch to road. And the other factor in road to trail is what is most convenient. If you have a hill which is behind your house and it takes 5 minutes to reach that hill and run, I think that's a better option to run. Road is anyway everywhere. You just get out of the house and you are on the road. So whichever is the most convenient. So, the main theme here is that when you begin, reduce the unnecessary stress which are around the running. Focus on the action, and that action is running. Keep that in mind and leave aside the rest of it. As you go along, you will discover the new things and they will get automatically adjusted into your schedule. Regarding the legs, that what do I do if it starts hurting? What happens to my knees and my ankles? When you start running, and again, it's an activity which you have not been doing for so long, it is bound to cause some sort of discomfort. I mean, to expect that after, let's say, 20, 30, 40, whatever is age group that we fall in, you decide one fine morning that I'm going to run. and you have run happily and it doesn't cause any pain, that is very unlikely. So, you know, there is some sort of a pain that you should expect. There is sort of some discomfort which you must expect, and there are ways to handle it. So while the injuries in itself is a separate topic here, and running injuries are again once the most talked about topic in the running forums, amongst the running community, amongst the runners, I believe that Athletic Insights is organizing a separate lecture on injuries. But as for this particular talk, I will say that if you take it easy, it is very unlikely that you are really going to cause a very major injury. The best way, or I would say the thumb rule, is that any pain which subsides within 36 to 48 hours can be safely assumed to be not an injury. And if you think that and you know, our bodies are very adaptable, so we get to know whether it's a pain which is caused because you ran so many kilometers, or it's a pain which is caused because of injury. I mean, most of the times you would make out that whether it's an abnormal pain, or it is a pain caused, or it's just a fatigue, it is just a tiredness. So make a judgment, and you know, the most important part is that you start to look consciously at your running. It is important that you get feedback, and you get a feedback from your body. Always the body provides a feedback. It is we who ignore it, and then it comes to the stage of injury. In any of these, the injury is not, running doesn't cause injury. It's the incorrect running which causes injury. And some part of it I will briefly mention, that what is the incorrect part of running. But otherwise, you know, I think one should not get worried about the knees and the ankles and all that. And one of the things which I always find, I mean, I use it for myself, that, you know, whenever, even my doctor said that when I started running initially, I did have pain slightly, sometimes in the meniscus, sometimes in the ankle. And the first doctor I met, he of course advised me that, oh, road running, no wonder you are having this pain. So, you know, so I asked him that, okay, if I stop running, what is the guarantee? He said, you know, if you keep doing that, it's not too far when you will have to go for knee replacement. So it's very common. We hear all the time these days that, you know, and there are various reasons which cause the replacement. But I don't think that if you look at the statistics of the people who have gone for knee replacement, they are the ones who actually do not have an active life. I mean, the ones who actually run don't go for knee replacement, because running or any physical activity strengthens your muscles around your knees or any other joints for that matter, and it will, if at all anything, it is going to help you. If you do it incorrect, then obviously, I mean, the consequences are for you to face. But otherwise, don't preserve your knees. I mean, what is the guarantee? Is your doctor going to give you a guarantee that if you don't run, you will not have a knee replacement? No, nobody can guarantee that. So instead of having to replace the knees by not running, I would rather say run and then replace the knees, right? Okay, so with that background, let's see how we can make a beginning. Again, since I see a lot of people who have already been running, I don't think I need to tell them to make a beginning as such, but some things which you can still help, even if you are, let's say, running for 4 months or 6 months, is to set an objective. Again, I will make a mention, I just came to know that they are organizing, Athletic Insights is organizing a separate talk on how to set a goal and how to achieve it. So I'll not dwell too much on that, but basic thing about setting an objective is that anything which has a target it's set, it's easy to pursue that target and easy to make a progression in that activity. The activity is new to us and something you need to motivate yourself. It's not necessary that you set a target to run a full marathon or you set a target to complete a half marathon, but there has to be some target. It can be as simple as being able to run 5 kilometers within, say, in the next 3 months, or it could be running a full marathon, next Mumbai marathon in another 1 year. The important point is to set an objective for yourself. The objective has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be achievable, because there's no point if I'm not running today to have to dream marathon next year in Mumbai. So I must have an objective which I'm able to achieve, because there is no bigger motivation than not being able to achieve what you wanted to achieve. So the best thing is to achieve, is to set a target which you are in a position to achieve. It has to be repeatable, because if you do 5 kilometers on one weekend, you have to be able to do those 5 kilometers repeatedly. That's most important, and it has to be time bound. Otherwise, 5 kilometers running has got no meaning unless it says that I should be able to run 5 kilometers in 35 minutes by the end of next month. That is an objective, and that I would urge all of us, I mean everybody, and that is applicable to everyone. It doesn't really mean it's meant for new beginners, or it's not meant for anyone. You must have an objective which you are able to follow up, which you are able to take feedback of. Try to make and follow a plan. So once you have an objective in mind, it's much easier to follow a plan, because then you exactly know that to be able to achieve that objective, what sort of plan you need to follow. It could be anything, 2 days to 3 days a week to begin with. It could be more days if you are highly motivated about running. And it could be even all 6 days a week if you are really supercharged to be running. Okay, so why I say 2 to 3 days a week is because, you know, it doesn't put additional pressure on you for a new activity. This is another point where always there are a lot of discussions, and you know, how much should I increase? Now this is more applicable for someone who has already started. So we have a lot of people who have just taken up running, are running for last 6 months, or are running for 8 months. And obviously there is an objective in their mind which says that I want to run a half marathon, or I want to run a marathon. So they must be thinking of that, okay, how do I increase my speed? How do I increase my distance? So if I am able to run 10 kilometers today, how fast should I go and attempt to run 12 kilometers or 15 kilometers? They say that in running there is a general thumb rule of 10% increase per week. But that again is very subjective, because it depends on how many days you are running. It depends on how much of mileage you have already put into running. So to start, I think just take it easy, increase 1 to 2 kilometers per week if you are regular. So if you are regularly running for 3 days a week, it's okay to add another kilometer at the end of the month. It's okay to another 2 kilometers at the end of the second month, and likewise. The point is that take it easy and slow, and because when you start adapting to higher distances, your body starts adapting into distances like 10, 15, 21, you have to be really very careful about the feedback of your body. You have to be careful that it is not causing any unnecessary pain. Sometimes you realize that, you know, I have up to 15 I'm okay, but after 15 kilometers there is a hip pain, there is a joint pain, there's a calf pain. So those feedbacks are very important to slow down. Those are very important to run injury free, and that must be everybody's objective. More than running distances and kilometers, to be able to run injury free must be one of the primary objectives. Add some sort of sense training, and it goes with the injury free running, because running itself is, while it's a good cardiovascular exercise, you have to have some sort of muscle training incorporated into your regime. So to be able to run better, you need stronger muscles, you need stronger legs, and for doing that you must do some sort of strength training. It can be as simple as just doing some squats and some push-ups and pull-ups at home, or some sort of sit-ups, or it could be if you join a gym, you can do light weights. It can be very little, but important to do at least once or twice a week, to, you know, because all of the running muscles, running is an impact activity. It is something which is unassisted sport. So you have to find ways to assist it in different manners. So you have to assist it by strengthening your muscle, by increasing the strength of your body. Some of the don'ts, which especially are applicable for the new runners or somebody who has just taken up, do not get intimidated by faster and long distance runners. This is a very, very common trait, and I have myself gone through it, and everybody faces it. I mean, once you start running, you see people running around you, somebody just passing by, and you feel, oh God, I'm not meant for running. I mean, just look at that guy, look at her, how she runs. I mean, she runs so fast, how can I ever do that? So that's a very common feeling. It's very natural. I mean, you see anyone who is doing that activity and you are struggling to do that activity, it kind of poses this question in your mind that, you know, it intimidates you. It kind of, you start thinking that no, it's not my cup of tea. But the point here is that, you know, you're running, or let's say is a function or is a reflection of your life. So if you have not run for all these years, you are never going to run like the other runner if he has run for last 10 years. Similarly, nobody knows that what kind of situation you run in. So you might be having late hours to work, you might be having a lot of work to do at home, and so you are only able to manage it, you are tired, you are running on tired legs. All of these factors are only associated with you and they cannot be compared to any other runner. So to feel intimidated and to feel demotivated by just looking at other runners is the first thing that you need to avoid to keep yourself motivated. Do not bother how you look while running. I mean, most of the times there is an inhibition, and more so with women. And they start thinking, oh, how do I look when run? I don't look very nice. Look at the others, they look so fit. You don't really need six-packs abs to be running, right? I mean, you can run with whatever bodies you are having, and it's perfectly okay. The best part, and the secret is that the runners don't look at the other runners. They are so engrossed with themselves, they are so engrossed at looking at themselves that they don't bother who is running or who is passing by. I don't know if it's true with the guys, but, but at least this is what it is. So, just don't bother how you look while running. This doesn't mean the posture. I'll come to the posture part later. Do not hesitate to walk. When you start running and when you increase the distances, it's okay to walk sometimes. If you are planning to run a 10 kilometer for the first time, and if you walk in between, then again go for running, it's perfectly okay. I mean, there is no such rule which says that, you have to run all along this 10 kilometers. In fact, everybody must be knowing that running and walking as a combination is quite an acceptable kind of strategy for the beginners, for somebody who is trying to build up mileage. That's how you can cover more distances. That's how you can keep your heart rate into control, because if you feel that you are suddenly huffing and puffing, slow down, walk a little while, and then start running again. And ultimately, it doesn't hurt your timing. I mean, you think that it hurts, but because you have slowed down and you have caught up on your breath, you are actually able to match that pace a little later during your run. Do not get caught in this jargon. I mean, there's a whole lot of jargon which is there. There's a pace, there is time, there is VO2 max, and there are God knows what all there are. I have so many friends who are experts in this jargon, and they must be looking at me. So, there's a whole lot of jargon which is available in this, and it is again extremely confusing. You don't understand that, okay, so what is the pace that I should be running? What is the kind of VO2 max? What must be my heart rate? Initially, I would just say, just listen to your heart, just listen to your body. It itself gives you enough indication for you to slow down. It is very rarely a case that your heart is racing and you are still racing. Your body won't allow that. I mean, the moment your heart rate increases beyond a point, you automatically slow down. You tend to slow down. So that's the first feedback. And it is very important initially to understand your capability in terms of your own understanding of your body and running. If you go by the devices to begin with, then don't have the devices dictate what you already understand. Let that time come. And there is a time for these things. There's obviously, it's not that these are just jargon. They definitely mean a lot. And they mean a lot to the people who have been into running, and they mean a lot. It is related to performance. When you are wanting to achieve a certain target, when you want to improve your performance, they do make a lot of sense. But the wisdom has a time. And I just remember a story here, and maybe it will be good to really tell you. So the story is called Papaji's Wisdom. And there is this patriarch of Punjabi family, an old patriarch, who has lived his full life and is a very happy man. He has his sons and daughters and all. He knows that he's towards the end of his life now. And so he calls all of his sons, daughters, grandsons and everybody around and says that, beta meri ek aakhri ichha hai. So everybody says that, yeah, why not? Sure. I mean, it's an old man and now it's not much of his life left. So they say, okay, Papaji, kya ichha hai? So he says, mujhe Sanskrit seekhni hai. So everybody starts wondering that why the old man wants to learn Sanskrit. At this age, he is almost on his deathbed. And why is he trying to learn Sanskrit? So one of the son asks that, लेकिन Papaji, आप इस उम्र में क्या करोगे संस्कृत सीख के? So he says that, बेटा अगर मैं स्वर्ग गया तो वहाँ तो संस्कृत में ही बात करनी पड़ेगी. Right? So everybody has that looming question in their minds that what if but nobody has the guts. But there's this small grandson who asks, लेकिन दादाजी अगर आप नर्क गए तो? So he says, वहाँ तो अपनी पंजाबी चल जाएगी. Right? So the old man knows that, there's a time. There's a time to learn all the wisdom. And when the time comes, you will know when to learn. So do not get caught up in this. Do not fuss over it. Just wait. And I'm sure that if you join these communities, there are a lot of information available on the net which will allow you to learn all of these terms. There are many people who understand this, who will be in a position to explain to you that what to make of these terms, how to use these terms to increase your performance. But till you reach that stage, just forget about all of these things and just run. So, you need to be really slow to form your convictions, because it takes time that, to form the conviction that I'm able to run, I want to run. There's a lot to want to run. The question to that answer itself takes a little time to answer. Do I really want to run? I mean, if every time I run and come back and I feel tired, do I want to continue this activity? So be slow while forming the convictions. But once these convictions are formed, absolutely defend it to get the best out of it. Do not overdo. So don't do any of these activities over. I mean, same in case of running, that don't do suddenly. Don't try to achieve too much too soon. Too much too soon is not a good idea, especially when it comes to your physical activity. You don't want to look like this man. Sometime later you may. Now, once you have decided, we got some basics that, okay, how to run, how frequently to run, how to take it up, what schedule to follow, and what not to do. Let's see how to keep at it. Because like the New Year's resolution, there's quite a tendency that you start up something, but you ultimately give up because of so many other factors. There is not enough motivation, there is not enough result in the act that you are doing. So you might tend to. So there are some simple things that you can do to keep at it. Find a partner or a buddy and start slow. It always helps to have a group of people running along. It always helps to have somebody who can follow with you in your own schedule. Because two people are better than one, because if you decide on a schedule, if you decide on a target, you might slack some time, but you can have somebody to tell you that, okay, no, we are supposed to run. There's somebody to motivate you. If when you are running long distances, it's always good to have somebody alongside, because you may be in pain or you may not want to run further. So somebody to just motivate, it's a very good idea. Running is a community, though it's individual, it is like a community sport, and one must start running in a community to keep at it. Once you are highly motivated that you no longer require a company, you have probably attained the nirvana. But till such time, come along and join the group to run. Pace is not important, continuous movement is. So the most demotivating factor is when you think, and that's thinking. It's a perception that I'm running slow. But that slow or fast is actually a function of what you were yesterday. So if you were stationary yesterday, anything that you run, any activity which you do not do, or which is any activity that you do today is better than the activity that you were not doing. So if you were stationary, then anything is a fast pace. So just take it slow, and it's not important as long as you are in a position to move. That's the strength you are trying to build in yourself. You are trying to be moving, let's say for 30 minutes to begin with, then 40 minutes, then the distances will be just getting covered. I mean, once you start having an objective that I need to be moving for 30 minutes, 3 times a week, that's when you will start to catch up that pace. That is when you will actually, pick up the distances, and then the distances will and kind of cease to have any importance for you, because they just get covered. If you keep moving, the distances get covered. So a very modest target of something like 20 minutes of moving time, no pace, no speed, no distance. 20 minutes of moving time 3 times a week is good enough to get you on the path of running. And this, if you remember, I can guarantee you that within 2 to 3 months of this activity, you will be actually running more than you expected. Some of the important tips: get a decent pair of shoes. And decent is, again, as I mentioned, it should fit you well, and you should feel comfortable. It should not cause any hurt. I mean, if you run for 20 minutes, then nothing should ache. It should not cause you blisters, or it should not cause any sort of pains. Pay attention to your form. This is one of the most important things. Now, many runners and many people keep running for years together with an incorrect form. It's not very easy, I'm sure, to understand that what is a good form and what is a bad form. But there are some basic things that we can follow, and it's better to follow it in the beginning. It's better to have a correct form when you start doing that, because once you have already run, say for a year or even let's say 6 months with a certain form, it's very difficult to go back and do this correction. So the best thing would be to pay your attention right in the beginning. The minimum you can do to have a, the open shoulders, look ahead, have a kind of an, straight body, and not lean too much forward, not lean too much backward after the run, because initially you will run smaller distances. You should observe whether you have any sort of a backache or any sort of a hip ache, because that's one of the indications that you are not using a good form. If you lean too much forward, it's not good for your back, right? So pay attention to your form, and there are so many people who can actually check for you. So check with people who have been already running that, do I look okay when I run? I mean, how do I keep my hands? I mean, there are many people who absolutely in a very strange fashion move their hands. So the thumb rule is that you have to hold your hands as if there is a wafer, or let's say some kind of a crunchy thing in your hand, and just move it along. It has to synchronize with your footsteps. Do not ignore pain. If at all you have a pain, first thing to do is to just rest and let it subside, because the world is not going to stop if you do not run. So just take it easy, but you can stop. So the best thing to do when you have pain is the most of the injuries are caused because the pain is ignored, and because you keep running, and that motivation sometimes is so high of running that you feel it's okay, it's not paining so much, and gradually the pain becomes something and it turns into an injury. If you have pain, apply the rice, like they say, it's the rice therapy. So first rest it, use ice compression, normal ice compression. If you have an ice bag, it's good. If you do not have, just put some ice cubes in a towel, or you can use a cold ice water towel and put it on the part which is inflated or which has got some sort of an injury. Use these 3 R's: rehydrate, refuel, and rest. So always carry a bottle of water when you are running. Sip the water in between slowly, and don't have to drink a lot of gulps, but just use a little bit of water. Refuel soon after you have actually run, because you have subjected your body to a form of exercise. So it's better that you replenish the energy that was lost during the run. And of course rest. I mean, once you are taking up running, it is not necessary that you always need to run. Once in a while you feel that, okay, I'm not feeling fine, or I don't feel like running today, take rest. There's nothing wrong. And it actually doesn't impact negatively, it impacts positively, because then next time you go, you have enough energy and motivation to carry out the running. Run early in the morning before your brain actually figures out what you are really doing. That's for the new runners. Always warm up and stretch before and after, stretch after the run. It's important that, if you start running early in the morning, you have slept through the night, your muscles are kind of in a relaxed state. So allow them some time to warm up, allow them, and that warm up can be actually part of your running. So if you choose to run 5 kilometers, the first 1 kilometer can be slow, it can be like warm up, it can be a slow jog, and then you complete the run that you have planned. Then go back and stretch a little bit, because the muscles must have been used during your run. So give them a nice stretch, relax those muscles back, and do not forget this, because most of the cramps, most of the pains which come later are because of the fact that people forget to either warm up, or more importantly to stretch after you have done it's especially applicable when you do long runs, and when you do say more than 10, 15, 20 kilometers, it's very important that you actually stretch your muscles. So some of the basics on the diet. First of all, there is no unusual diet which is necessary. Any good diet that you follow, and what I mean by diet is not really a diet. It's a healthy eating habits is what I mean by the term diet, and that's what it's usually meant. It's leave aside the commercial part of it, but usually what is meant is in healthy eating habits. As long as you have healthy eating habits, I don't think there is a very great difference in your diets that you need to do. Eat a small snack, something which is carbohydrates, within an hour of your run. Idli, pohe, anything is fine, which we eat at home. Try to eat it within 30 minutes, because it's the best time when your body absorbs these things. It's the best time when your body needs these things. So you having exercised your muscles, having used your energy, the best thing to do is to quickly replenish that, because that will keep you, that will, first of all, it will make you feel happy, and you don't realize that it actually, the timely and the right amount of food at right time is something that can, make you feel happy and not feel fatigued, because the more you delay this eating, the body starts getting into the fatigue. Thumb rule is like this: carbs for energy, protein for recovery, and a lot of water and fluids. So always, whenever you are in need of energy, let's say before your run, if you are able to eat a banana or an apple, that's the best. Post your run, try to eat, like I said, carbs for the replenish, and take protein for, by protein I do not mean any supplements here, I just mean protein as available in your food habits, in the form of a meat, fish, or in the form of a dal, legumes, whatever you follow as in your diet. Again, on nutrition, they do plan to have a separate talk organized for nutrition itself, where if you have any specific questions related to that, they will be answering it. If you are running on a warm day, include electrolytes in your drink, because we as such belong most of the time here in Pune, let's say, or wherever you are running. It is warm many months in a year, and therefore you sweat a lot. It's important to replace the salts that you lose during your run, during your sweating. And if you like electrol or enerzol, that's best. If you do not like, nimbu pani with little more additional salt and sugar is perfectly okay. So carry that, have that during your run, sip it just like in water, and that should be good enough. So it's not that any specific big diet is really required for you to run. At the same time, I would say that obviously stay away from unhealthy things, because after having worked out so much, you don't want to lose all that by just eating some sort of, unhealthy thing. So after you have subjected your body to something like a 5-10 kilometer of run, you don't want to eat a vada pav, because that's not going to help yourself. So vada pav is not bad, I like it very much, but the timing is not right. So the right thing at right time is most important, and it will go a long way to help you, and not in just running, but in maintaining your health. So once you have spent so much of your energy, taken efforts, so treat your body with respect. It's really unfair to treat it with vada pav at that time. So I just thought that after having talked so much about it, you must be wondering that, okay, fine, you didn't tell us what did you do for doing that, and how is it that you started running and all. And that was what she had come to tell, that why don't you actually tell them that what were you doing. So I had kept it for the last, because it's like, whenever you read a food recipe, there is at the last there is something called as chef's tip. So I just thought that maybe I can use it. Okay, that was a joke, but it's not a chef's tip. So there is no specific recipe, there is no secret ingredient in that. More or less, I did what I have been trying to tell you. Actually, I did not do, and in retrospection, I could have done better if I had actually followed what I am preaching right now. So, but I'll tell you what I did, to be honest, because it's important to know that what actually helped me in getting on to running. So I wasn't running like Nalanda said 3 years back, but I was definitely, I'm an outdoor person. I like trekking, I do cycling and all. So I was doing all that, but because we wanted to take part, me and my friends, in an adventure race, which is Enduro 3, I'm sure many of you are aware of it. So we just thought that adding running could be a good cross training for us. It could be good to increase your strength, it's good to increase your capacity, because the race itself is a multi-sport, or it's a multi-discipline race. And that's how we just started 10 kilometers of running once in a week. And almost for 3 to 4 months, that is all I was doing. And that also, it's not that I was feeling exhilaration after the 10 kilometer of run, but I was just doing it because that's what we planned. All of us, and me and my other friends and partners, we decided that, okay, we must run 10 kilometers a week, and that's all I did. I never even gave it a thought that, okay, this 10 kilometer running is a sport and it can be, you can take it to a high level. Never that thought crossed my mind, because my single objective was probably just that, run 10 kilometers a week, as given, this is the plan which has been given. I followed it for a long time, and then heard about the half marathon, and just thought that, okay, everybody talks of Mumbai marathon, why not actually go and attempt it sometime. That's the time we realized that Mumbai marathon is a most popular marathon. I realized, that's my ignorance. that, and you don't really just get to run Mumbai Marathon just like that. You need to have a timing certificate from some other marathon to be, eligible to run that Mumbai Marathon. And that's when we decided to run the Delhi Marathon. So my first attempt at marathon was Delhi in 2011, which is just about 2 years back. And since we were doing 10 kilometers, and me and my friends decided that it's okay. If you can run 10 kilometers, maybe you can also run 21 kilometers. It doesn't sound too intimidating. It doesn't sound something which is unachievable. So we started increasing the distance slowly, and again, I think I kept running just once in a week, and every alternate 15 days, I increased the distance by 1 kilometer or 2 kilometer. I must make a mention that Pune Running was organizing this month-end runs, which are kind of an organized activity. So you get a water support, and you get some people running along with you. So that's how I started running little more, because it's good to run, see people around you running, somebody ahead, somebody behind, and most importantly, you have water stations. So if you are running long distance, you need water in between, and you can't carry the big bottles when you are running. So that's how I think I just attempted the Delhi Marathon. Post the marathon, when I was watching the photos, I think I was looking horrible, because I was almost like not at all happy. And really at the finish line, my feeling was just that, okay, fine, finally I have completed a half marathon. So though I did complete it in a decent time, it was 2 hours and 3 minutes or something like that, but still I wasn't very happy. I wasn't feeling really very great about having to do that marathon, because I was having a pain. I was having a pain in my collateral, and so much of pain that I just couldn't get down the stairs on the Delhi metro. And I just decided it's okay. I don't think that running is my sport. It's okay. I can do so many other things. So why bother running? Because if running is going to cause me an injury which will stop all of my other activities, I would rather give up running and do something else. But the pain subsided probably in 8 to 12 hours, and I forgot about it. And like everybody else, after a month, we were again starting to run and thinking and planning of the other half marathon to run. Even then, I was thinking that it's okay. 21 kilometers had stopped to surprise me. Once the distances are in your mind, and the distances are your perception. So once you have run 21 kilometers, it ceases to have its importance. It completely stops to intimidate you. You think, okay, fine, 21 is all right, 21 is okay. But I'm sure, and this is exactly what I was saying, that 21 is fine. I think we can do it. It's a very enjoyable thing. You get to see a lot of people, and you complete. And before you get to know, because there are so many people around you who are running, that environment is very motivating. But 42, I'm sure, is only for crazy people, right? So it is impossible that I will ever take up to 42 kilometers, because that's absolutely not my thing. And I'm very clear that I don't want to get myself injured and stop every other activity. So when I registered, or rather when I was forced to register for a full marathon, I didn't even tell a whole lot of people, totally, because I was feeling so much ashamed of myself that, I haven't run, I'm not into training, I hardly run. Once in a week is no running. For all those who train for marathon, they know that once a week running is no running. And I'm not justifying, I'm not saying that it's the right thing to do. So, I was not prepared, I was not even having in that mindset to be able to run 42 kilometers. But we trained, and again, not that we train very rigorously, we just train again fortnightly, increasing the distance. I used to run with Pune Running on the month-end runs to add like after 21, 28 and 30 and 32 and all that. After I had run 36 kilometers, I was so tired and I was so frustrated that I said, no, I don't think I'm ever going to make it to the finish line of 42 kilometers. But then, I finished it. So the thing is that you underestimate. We always underestimate our capability, and we always underestimate our bodies, because it is once you have decided to do something, you have this response coming in for your body which motivates you to run. That environment of a marathon is so charged up that and then you start feeling that no, the least I have to do is to finish. I don't really want to be going back if we have some 7, 8 friends of you and everybody is running, I don't want to be the one who did not finish it. If everybody else finished it, why couldn't I finish it? And that is what keeps you going. So you run, you just run to be able to complete it. And while at the time of finish line, and even at Mumbai Marathon, I was saying, and I think Mukul is here, the first thing I said to her was that I'm not doing this crazy thing ever again. I think I have just done it, and I have done it in my life. So if at all there was a tick mark that, okay, I have run a marathon, then I have put that tick mark. And that time, obviously, I was not knowing about, that I will actually be getting a third position in that. So the secret recipe or the mantra is here, that start by doing what is necessary. So if you have decided to take up running, do it, whatever is necessary to get you into motion, to get you into that action. Then do whatever is possible. So if your schedule and if your physical capability allows you to run for 2 to 3 days, run 2 to 3 days. If it allows you to run 2 days only, run only for 2 days. Only one kind of a disclaimer here. Do not expect results which will be contrary to what you train, right? So if you train for 2 days, the results are going to be accordingly there. So do not expect any miracles there. And I did not expect any miracle. Based on my previous running performance, I was aware that I should be able to complete a marathon in 4 hours and 20 minutes. And that's what I did. I completed it in 4 hours and 19 minutes. So it's not that there was some miracle that happened. Whatever was my physical state and my training and whatever was my preparedness, I got the results which were in line with that. I just got lucky that there was a third number which I got. Otherwise, it was not that I trained for something else and I got something else. It's not so. So remember that you can choose to run and you can choose to have a training plan which suits you, but also expect the results which are in line with that training, right? So it's like we are taught in school. I mean, if there are studious students in school, which we have a lot of them, and they get good marks. So the other ones, they do not study and don't get good marks. And there are some lucky like me who don't study but still get good marks. Okay, so but everybody can't expect to be lucky, and therefore the best thing to do is to do a calculated. I mean, do plan your thing and calculate it what is the best that you can achieve. And so start by doing what is necessary, then do whatever is possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. So for me to imagine that I could complete a marathon was impossible. I mean, I had not thought about it. I had not really seriously given a thought about it. But what worked in my favor, and I want you to note that, is that I was consistent in what I was doing. So if I was running for once a week, and if I was increasing my mileage every fortnight, I was consistently doing that. I mean, I did not really slag in that, or I did not really give up, even if it didn't feel very great. It didn't feel very great after 36 kilometers either. But I did not give it up. So that's the most important thing to do, that be consistent and you will be rewarded with the results. So that very much brings me towards the end of this talk, and I hope that at least it has kind of at least help you to take up running, to think about that you can running, and include this as one of the activities in your schedule, in your life. It's a very simple activity. Again, it's a very, I must say, an inexpensive activity. And the good part is that you have a lot of support. You have Pune running, and they run at various places, at Magarpatta in university, right? Any other places? Okay, so whatever suits your home and all, run in group at least once a week, because it helps you to exchange your thought. It helps you to see or meet other runners. It also helps you to, kind of do a group activity, which you otherwise wouldn't do. If you are running all alone, you might run only a certain distance. If you run in a group, you probably can run a longer distance. So do that. They have these Sunday runs available. They also have organized month-end long runs which are available. And of course, you have the Athletic Insights, so which is a good platform to share your thoughts. It's a platform where, the people who have gone through this. And it always helps to listen to the experiences, because you don't want to go through it again. I mean, why discover the whole wheel again when there is someone who can actually tell you about it? So do come, do enjoy these talks and share your views, and also, be part of the community. Like for every program, usually there is, so before I say that enjoy your journey and see you out there, there has to be a commercial break, right? So every program has a commercial before you start to listen to the program. But because I spared you with all that commercial, you have to bear with me for another 30 seconds. On the Run is the name of the venture that I run, and which I have started. It's about the sports bar and the health foods. So we make nutrition bars, which you can use on the run when you are deciding to run, and of course for any other health foods. If you are part of the 6th October event, then there will be a pamphlet which you will get, and you can read more information about the food and the nutrition bars that we make. If you are not part of it, please come to me. I can have the pamphlets shown to you. So that was the commercial part. So enjoy your journey and see you out there. I hope it will be of some use to all of you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer to the best of my capability, and your feedback is most welcome. Thank you. Sure. On a treadmill. You don't see anything else on the treadmill other than that television screen. That's one of the big change that you experience. Right. So, you can very well do a little bit of running start on a treadmill to get your feet in action. But the main thing which happens is that you have a space, right, or you have a speed that you set in on the, and this is my experience, that on a treadmill. So what happens is that you don't have a chance to really slow down there, or you have to every time just decrease that, and once the floor starts moving, so you do not get a sense of running there, and many times people hold on to the sidebars of the treadmill. That's absolutely incorrect, because that means you are lifting your body with that hands, and you are actually not allowing your feet to run. And most importantly, I think it is different running on a road in a fresh air, and where you are making a displacement vis-a-vis a treadmill where you are. But I believe that there are a lot of people who use treadmill for speed workouts. I mean, they use it for increasing your speed. So if you want to run small workouts or 10 minutes or so, and more than that, can you really run on a treadmill for 2 hours? So if you have to run something like 2 hours, then it's very difficult to keep yourself in that one position. And to be very honest, it's not just as enjoyable as it is out running in the fresh air. So, perfect. It's good in rainy season. So. Okay.
One of my target is a 5 kilometers.
Sure.
So what's the time I should look for? Like 5 kilometers in how much time? That would be a good target.
Anyone wants to answer that from the running potential?
I think the answer would be to achieve that target first, 5 kilometers. Whatever time. So supposing initially it is 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour, doesn't matter. Make same 5 kilometers, you continue and achieve it in an earlier and earlier time, lesser and lesser time. So first is to build up the mileage and then the time.
Completely agree. If you have just started running 2 weeks back, then you just try to, like I mentioned in my presentation, that moving continuously for 5 kilometers should be your objective, not that time. And that time factor, you should add it a little later. Maybe if you have run 5 kilometers 3 times, 4 times consistently during a month, then you check back that, okay, how I can improve. And again, there is no good time and there is no bad time, right? It completely is a function of your physical fitness and from where you start. So if today you are not ever able to run 5 kilometers, even in whether it is 40 minutes or 30 minutes, all is good. And actually you wouldn't know. Probably you might run just in 25 minutes. Because you today are not even aware that what is your capability in terms of completing that 5K. So the best thing would be to first do it consistently. Once you have done it 3-4 times, you are already knowing that in how much time do you take. And then you can actually calculate. If you have a goal like completing half marathon in so and so time, then you can check whether your 5 kilometer falls into that speed or not, or whether you need to increase and whether you need to improve that. And don't run after the speed right in the beginning. Just like he says, build the mileage, get yourself comfortable running 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, and then go for a target. Yes.
So the thing I was saying is, I've started running not more than 3 or 4 months back, and I used to run short distances. So one thing which I realized is if I have to graduate running bigger distances, to take the distance out of the equation. So what I did was, if my ability was to run 40 minutes, can I do 45 in the week coming ahead, and then 45 to 50, 50 to 55, and after a point in time you realize that you're also putting in more distance. So that way you don't burden yourself that from 5 I need to do this in 40, or 10 I need to do in 60 minutes or stuff like that. It's just about how much more you can go every week, a slow gradual increase in that sense. So you decide what is your bogey. Your bogey is the time, or your bogey is the distance, and then you try killing it one thing at a time. You either work on your time or you work on your distance, and the second one follows in that sense.
And something about barefoot running.
To be honest. So if there is someone who can answer about barefoot running, I'll be happy. Such there is a lot of information available on the net, but Pune running has a lot of barefoot runners, right? I think you can talk to a
No, we do have actually at Pune running we have several people who do run barefoot, and we are planning to do as one of our sessions. We are going to invite one of them on to talk about barefoot running as well.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I think I missed that point. Okay. So heel first or toe first, I think this is again one of the most talked about subjects in the running forums and all that. I think what I have understood and what I have read about it is that you must try to either land on your midfoot, certainly not on the heel, either on the midfoot or on your toe. So because the toe has this cushion which is actually meant to absorb the shocks. So you should try to do that. But, to be very honest, do not try to do anything deliberately. So do not try to suddenly form a spring in your foot by like doing this or that. Try to see first that how you're running. If you are, very few people land on heel. I mean, if you purposely try to do like this, then you have, otherwise your natural tendency is to land on your foot and midfoot. And midfoot is something which is majoritarily accepted form of running. Is that right, Anand? Anybody wants to add? Foot or heel or something like that? Yeah.
Most of people, if they are running naturally, so it ties down to the barefoot question. If you could, it's very hard or impossible to do a heel strike if you take the shoes out. One of the evils of our shoe making industry is that they keep the cushion so high that unnoticeably you start hitting your heel first. Just notice that. Take your shoes out and you will never do a heel strike. So that something tells you that there is something wrong with the shoe. So I would tie these things together. If you could do something which is barefoot, where you naturally hit the midfoot or forefoot strike with the shoes, then that's something like a golden mean. Because
it's actually very difficult even, like he says, unless you have a really high heel on your shoe, it's really impossible to land on the heel. The high heel makes you land on the heel. It's not that you land on the heel. You still probably do like this, but because there is a heel below, you tend to touch the heel first. And so anything which is as close as what nature has created is probably the easiest to follow.
another point is when you do a heel strike, notice that you are hitting your foot is ahead of your body. If you are hitting your foot just below your hip or your center of gravity, it will naturally be a forefoot strike. So just notice how you are running. If you are landing in front of your body, then you are going to have this heel strike problem, and you will have shin splints which hit your front bone in the shin, as well as it is a braking force, so you will not be able to run faster that way.
Yeah. So did you try to breathe unnaturally and that's why you got a pain, or you... Hmm. Okay, so first of all, do not try to change any normal breathing patterns because when you do any sport, and basically it is to do with your heart rate, right? Your heart pumps and you need more and more oxygen when you start running. So getting more oxygen is one of the things that you want to achieve by breathing. And do not try to dictate the breathing. It is best as natural as possible. When you require more air, what do? You open your mouth, right? You open your mouth and you start breathing also from your mouth. So that is the way for any sport to go. Whether it is when you are starting huffing and puffing, you need more oxygen and you start to take it from mouth, and that is the way to go even when you are running. When you are actually feeling that your heart rate has increased, try to take a deep breath, because deep breath actually causes the lungs to store that oxygen and use it for your muscles, to power your muscles. So that's the time you should take a deep breath, and deep breath will help you bring down your heart rate, and as your heart rate comes down, your requirement for oxygen comes down, right? So and therefore it is like, this question is very much related where all these people will say that, okay, the heart rate is really important to monitor, because at what stage do you really, and that's once you have, let's say, running already for 6, 8, 9 months, and you have understood that you feel you huff and puff after a certain amount of time, or when you run at a certain speed, that's the time you should try to use the heart rate as an indicator to guide you in during your runs. That's all. There is no one rule which will tell you that, okay, walk for so much of distance and do not walk for so much distance. It again depends on how you have trained yourself. I mean, it's not that one fine morning you go and complete a half marathon. You train for it. So let's say you train for it for 6 months. Then either you choose to take a training pattern which has walking and running incorporated in it, right? So there are so many training plans that are available on the net. And there are multiple sites like Runner's World and so many which will give you, there are marathon pace calculators which tell you and which produce the plans which say that, okay, run for 2 minutes, walk for 1 minute, run for 2 minutes. So these are something that you need to adapt to, and you are not going to come across this question on the day of the marathon. That's something that you will be calculated, that you would have already decided, because when you ran 10 kilometers, how much was your requirement to walk and run? When you ran 15 kilometers, how much was that requirement to walk and run? And that is it's a function of what you train for. So you don't even need to do that. I'm just saying that if you begin with that, then you follow that program to the T and you follow it also to the marathon. So you can choose to run a marathon which, let's say 1 kilometers of run and say 200 meters of walk, then again 1 kilometers run, 200 kilometers walk, if that is what you have chosen as your training plan. So don't do something on the day of the marathon. Choose a plan which suits your timing and which suits your training. And if you train for that, just follow the same thing on the marathon. You're not really doing something which is different on the day of the marathon. The different thing is that you are running a marathon. The rest is the same. If you are training for it, you are just extending that training to the event. Yes. Yes, of course, you must. You must sip water during the run. Okay. Yeah, you can. I mean, you don't need to gulp a whole lot of water, I mean, which will, if you are running special. During walking, I think you can even drink water and keep walking. But if you are running, then it's an impact activity. So you can't really drink a lot of water, but you can sip water during your runs. And that is completely dependent on how much you sweat, how much thirsty you feel during running, or how much water you require. And it differs from person to person, that there's no thumb rule that if you're running 10 kilometers, drink 1 liter of water. You must, yeah. It's perfectly okay to drink water when you are running. And rather you should drink water when you are running. You should sip water when you are running. You should keep yourself hydrated all the time, because when you run, you are sweating and you are losing salts, you are losing water in your body. So it's absolutely advisable to drink water.